Tonight, I'm sharing 3 coworker stories that will make you realize the person sitting across from you at work might not be who you think they are. These aren't just uncomfortable situations. These aren't just workplace drama. These are true accounts of obsession, violence, and terror that happened in places where people thought they were safe. And I need you to ask yourself something before we begin. Do you really know the person you work with? The one who seems normal, friendly even. The one who knows your schedule, your routine, where you park your car. Because for the people in tonight's stories, finding out the truth came at a price. If you've ever felt watched at work, subscribe right now. Because these stories will confirm that sometimes paranoia isn't paranoia at all. Let's begin. Organized. This first story is called The Supply Closet, and it comes from a woman named Amanda who worked at an advertising agency in Seattle. She thought her coworker was just socially awkward. She was wrong. Very, very wrong. Memorizing. I worked as a graphic designer at a mid-size ad agency. About 30 employees, open floor plan. Pretty standard corporate environment. In June 2023, they hired a new IT guy named Trevor. Early 30s, quiet, didn't talk much. He'd fix your computer issues quickly and efficiently, then disappear back to his desk in the corner. I'd see him around. He'd help me when my design software crashed, or when I needed files recovered. Always professional, always helpful. But there was something about the way he looked at me. Not in an obvious way. Not like other guys who'd stare or make comments. It was subtle, like he was studying me, memorizing me. I'd catch him watching me from across the office. When I'd look up, he wouldn't look away immediately like most people do. He'd just keep staring for a few seconds longer, then slowly turn back to his screen. It made my skin crawl, but I couldn't explain why. I told myself I was being paranoid. He was just awkward, socially weird. Some IT guys are like that, right? Then I started noticing other things. My desk had this specific way I organized things. Pens on the left, sticky notes in the middle. My coffee mug on a coaster in the top right corner. One morning in August, I came in and something felt off. My mug had been moved, just slightly, maybe an inch to the left. My mouse was on the wrong side of my keyboard. Small things, things you could explain away. Maybe the cleaning crew moved them, but it kept happening. I'd leave my desk for a meeting, come back, and my chair would be adjusted to a different height. My desktop background would be changed, not to something inappropriate, just to a different wallpaper from the default options. One time, I came back from lunch and my lipstick was missing from my desk drawer. I found it 2 days later in my pencil holder. I started to feel like someone was going through my things. So I set up a test. I have long hair, and it sheds constantly. Before I left work one Friday, I carefully placed a single strand of my hair across my desk drawer, pressed against the frame. If someone opened it, the hair would fall. Monday morning, the hair was on the floor. Someone had opened my drawer over the weekend. I checked with security, asked if anyone had access to the office on Saturday or Sunday. They checked the logs. Trevor had come in on Saturday, logged in at 11:17 a.m., said he was doing system maintenance. I felt sick, but I had no proof. Maybe he really was just doing maintenance. Maybe I was overreacting. That week, I started paying closer attention, and I noticed Trevor's pattern. Every time I got up, to use the bathroom, to get coffee, to go to a meeting, within minutes, Trevor would get up too. He'd walk past my desk, slowly. Sometimes he'd stop, pretend to look at something on his phone, just standing there near my workspace. One afternoon, I was in the break room getting water. I was alone. The break room has a small hallway entrance, so you can't see inside from the main office. I heard footsteps. Someone entering. Trevor walked in, saw me, stopped. We made eye contact. For what felt like an eternity. He just stood there, didn't say anything, didn't move. Just looked at me with this completely blank expression. "Hey, Trevor," I said, trying to sound normal. He didn't respond, just kept staring. Then he smiled. Not a friendly smile, not even a creepy smile. It was empty, like a mask. He turned around and walked out without saying a word. That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. Center. The next day, I went to my manager, told her everything. The moved items, the staring, the break room incident. She took it seriously. Said she'd talk to HR and keep an eye on things. That afternoon, I needed to grab some printer paper from the supply closet. It's a small room, maybe 6 by 8 feet, with metal shelves floor to ceiling. We keep it unlocked during work hours. I opened the door and reached for the light switch. That's when I smelled it. Perfume. My perfume. The specific scent I wear every single day. It was strong in that small space, like someone had sprayed it recently. I turned on the light, and I saw it, on the back wall, behind the shelves, barely visible unless you walked all the way in. Photos. Dozens of photos, taped to the wall, of me. Pictures of me at my desk, walking to my car, getting coffee, sitting in meetings. Some were clearly taken from inside the office. Others were taken from outside, through the office windows, through the parking garage. One even looked like it was taken from across the street at a coffee shop I frequented. But that's not even the worst part. In the center of the photos was a small shrine, a candle. Some of my pens have gone missing, a hair tie I thought I'd lost, and a Ziploc bag, full of hair. My hair. Long, dark strands. Dozens of them. Collected over God knows how long. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. Just stood there staring at this wall of obsession hidden in our office supply closet. Then I heard footsteps in the hallway. Someone was coming. I backed out of the closet, left the door open, and ran straight to my manager's office. Security was called. Police were called. They found Trevor at his desk. When they searched his workstation, they found more photos. Printed Google Maps directions to my apartment. Screenshots of my social media posts going back months. And a journal. Pages and pages of entries about me. What I wore each day. What time I arrived and left. Who to talk to. What I ate for lunch. One entry from 3 weeks earlier said, "She doesn't know yet, but she will. We're meant to be together. I just need to make her understand." Another from 2 days before said, "Soon, very soon." Trevor was arrested that day. They charged him with stalking, harassment, and criminal trespass. During the investigation, police searched his apartment. They found more photos. Hundreds of them. Not just of me, of other women too. Women from his previous jobs. Women from his neighborhood. But I was different, they told me. I was special. He had a timeline planned out. Notes about how he was going to approach me. What he was going to say. How he'd convince me to go out with him. And if that didn't work, there was a plan B. They found a rope at his car. Zip ties. A roll of duct tape. The detective told me I was lucky. Said if I hadn't found that closet when I did, if I hadn't reported it immediately. He didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. Trevor took a plea deal. Got 3 years in prison and a permanent restraining order. 3 years. For planning God knows what. I quit that job. Moved to a different city. Changed my phone number. Locked down all my social media. But here's what I can't shake. How long was he watching me before he built that shrine? How many times did he touch my things before I noticed? How many times did he follow me home without me knowing? And how many Trevors are out there right now, in offices just like mine, watching someone just like you? Before we continue, I need to know, have you ever felt like someone at work was watching you? Not just looking, watching. Share your story in the comments. The more we discuss this, the more we can recognize the warning signs. Now, if you thought that was disturbing, this next story goes even darker. I worked overnight security at a pharmaceutical research facility in Massachusetts. It's a large building, 4 floors above ground, 2 basement levels, maybe 100 rooms total, mostly labs and offices. The overnight shift was just 2 of us, me and a guy named Carl. We'd been working together for about 8 months. Carl was in his 50s, former cop, knew the job well. We'd split the building. I'd take the upper floors. He'd take the basement levels and do the perimeter checks. It was a quiet job. Boring mostly. We'd do rounds every hour. Check the doors, monitor the security cameras, and sit at the desk the rest of the time. Carl was a good guy. Talked about his daughter a lot. Showed me photos of his grandson. We'd share coffee. complain about the Red Sox, talk about retirement plans, normal co-worker stuff. But on October 17th, 2023, everything changed. That night started like any other. Carl and I clocked in at 11 p.m. He grabbed his flashlight and radio, said he was going to start with the basement levels. "See you in an hour," he said. I watched him on the security monitors as he descended the stairs to B1, basement level 1. Saw him check a few doors, test some locks. All routine. At 12:15 a.m., his radio crackled. "David, I'm heading down to B2. Everything's clear up here." "Copy that," I replied. That was the last normal conversation we had. At 1:47 a.m., I hadn't heard from Carl in over an hour. That wasn't unusual. Sometimes the radio didn't work well in the lower levels, but I decided to check the cameras. I pulled up the B2 feed. The hallway was empty. Motion sensors showed no activity. I tried his radio. "Carl, you there?" "Status check." "Static." I tried again. Nothing. At 2:10 a.m., I decided to go down there myself. Probably just a dead radio battery. But protocol said we should never be out of communication for more than 90 minutes. I took the stairs down. B1 was fine. Checked a few doors Carl should have tested. All locked, all clear. Then I went down to B2. The basement level 2 is different from the rest of the building. It's older, colder. The lights flicker sometimes. The hallway is longer with fewer rooms, mostly storage and mechanical equipment. I called out, "Carl, you down here?" My voice echoed. No response. I walked down the hallway, checking rooms. Supply closet empty. Electrical room empty. Boiler room empty. Then I reached the last room at the end of the hall, the old archive room. The door was slightly open. That door was supposed to be locked. Always. I pushed the door open slowly. "Carl." The room was dark except for my flashlight beam. Rows of old filing cabinets, boxes stacked on shelves, dusty and forgotten. And then I saw him. Carl was on the floor, face down, not moving. I ran over, dropped to my knees. "Carl, Carl, can you hear me?" I rolled him over. His eyes were open, empty. His skin was cold. There was blood on the side of his head, a lot of blood, like he'd fallen and hit it on the corner of a filing cabinet. I checked for a pulse. Nothing. He was dead. I grabbed my radio, hands shaking. "This is David. I need emergency services immediately. B2, archive room. Officer down." I repeat, "Officer down." I gave them the details, stayed with Carl, tried to keep it together. The ambulance arrived 20 minutes later. Police came with them. They pronounced Carl dead at the scene. Preliminary assessment: accidental fall, head trauma, likely slipped and hit the cabinet corner. They cleared the building, took statements, documented everything. I was shaken. Carl was a good guy, and now he was gone. Just like that. The facility shut down for the rest of the night. Told me to go home, take a few days off. I left around 5 a.m. The next evening, I got a call from my supervisor. Asked if I could come back in for a follow-up interview. Police wanted to review the security footage with me. When I arrived, there were 3 detectives waiting. "David," one of them said, "we need to show you something." They pulled up the security footage from the night before. Started with Carl's descent into B2 at 12:15 a.m. We watched him walk down the hallway, check doors, move toward the archive room. He opened the door, went inside. 2 minutes passed. He didn't come out. "That's the last time the cameras saw him," the detective said. But watch this. He fast-forwarded to 3:47 a.m., long after I'd found Carl's body, long after the police had left. The camera showed the archive room door, still closed. But then, the audio picked something up. A voice. Faint, distant, coming from inside that room. The detective turned up the volume. It was Carl's voice. "David, David, help me. I'm still down here. David, please, it's so cold." My blood turned to ice. "That's impossible," I said. Carl was dead. I found him at 1:47. This is 4 hours later. The detective nodded slowly. "We know. That's why we called you in. He played it again. Carl's voice, clear as day, calling my name, asking for help. But Carl's body had been in the morgue since 2:30 a.m. There's more, the detective said. He pulled up another angle, a hallway camera pointing toward the archive room. At 3:47 a.m., right when the audio picked up Carl's voice, the doorknob turned from the inside. Slowly, deliberately, the door opened about 6 inches, and in the gap, a shadow, a figure, just standing there, not moving, not leaving, just standing in the darkness. The detective paused the footage. "Do you recognize this person?" he asked. I leaned closer to the screen. The figure's posture, the height, the shape of the shoulders. It looked like Carl. "That's impossible," I whispered. "We know," the detective said. "But look at the timestamp. 3:47 a.m. For hours after Carl died, the figure stood there for 30 seconds. Then the door slowly closed. The hallway was empty again. Recognize. The detectives investigated everything, checked for other people in the building. Security logs showed nobody else had entered. Reviewed all camera angles. No one else was there. They brought in audio forensics. The voice on the recording was a 97% match to Carl's voice patterns. But Carl was dead. The medical examiner confirmed he'd been dead for hours before that recording. One detective, an older guy who'd seen a lot in his career, pulled me aside before I left. "David," he said quietly, "I've worked homicides, suicides, accidents. I've seen a lot of things I can't explain. But this," he shook his head, "in 30 years, I've never seen anything like this. And between you and me, I don't think Carl fell. I think something down there, something we can't see on these cameras. I think something happened to him. And whatever it was, it used his voice to call for help afterwards." I never went back to that job. The facility hired new security. I heard through the grapevine that 2 other guards quit within a month. Said they heard voices on B2. Said doors would open on their own. Said they felt watched. The company ended up sealing off the afterwards level 2 permanently. Claimed it was due to structural concerns. But I know the truth. Something is still down there. And it sounds like Carl. If you're still watching, if you made it through that story, then you understand why these accounts need to be shared. Hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on notifications, because I post true horror stories like this every week, and the community in comments has shared some experiences that are just as disturbing as what you've heard tonight. You don't want to miss what's coming next. This account is called The Double, and it was sent to me by a woman named Rebecca. She worked at a call center in Texas, and one day, she saw her coworker sitting at her desk, working, the same coworker who had been in a coma for 3 days. Organized. I worked at a large customer service call center, the family in Houston. About 200 employees spread across a massive floor, rows of cubicles, everyone wearing headsets, taking calls all day. I'd been there for 3 years. Knew most of my co-workers, at least by sight. One of them was a woman named Lisa. Lisa sat 4 cubicles down from me. We weren't close friends, but we were friendly. We'd chat during breaks, complain about difficult customers, and share snacks. She was in her late 20s, always wore bright colors, had this distinctive laugh you could hear across the floor. On Monday, March 11th, 2024, Lisa didn't show up for work. That wasn't like her. She was reliable, always on time. Around 10 a.m., our supervisor gathered us for a meeting. Told us Lisa had been in a car accident over the weekend. She was alive, but in critical condition at Memorial Hermann Hospital. Induced coma. The family asked for privacy and prayers. We were all shocked, devastated. The next few days were somber. People put up a card at the front desk for everyone to sign. Someone organized sent her a meal train for her family. Wednesday came. Lisa was still in a coma. No change in her condition. I was at my desk around 2 p.m., taking calls like usual. I stood up to stretch, looked across the floor toward the break room, and I saw her, Lisa, walking past the cubicles toward the copy machine, wearing a bright yellow blouse. her hair in the same ponytail she always wore. I froze. That's impossible, I thought. Lisa's in the hospital, but I was looking right at her, clear as day, maybe 30 feet away. She reached the copy machine, pressed some buttons, waited while it printed. I looked around. Nobody else seemed to notice. Everyone was just working normally. I stood up and started walking toward her. "Lisa," I called out. She didn't turn around. I got closer. 20 feet, 15 feet. "Lisa, is that you?" She picked up her copies from the tray, turned, and walked away, down the hallway toward the bathrooms. I followed her. "Lisa, wait." I reached the hallway, looked left, looked right. Empty. She was gone. The bathroom door was closed. I pushed it open. "Lisa." 2 stalls. Both doors open. Nobody inside. I checked every stall. Checked behind the door. Looked under the sinks. She wasn't there. I went back to my desk, heart pounding. Tried to rationalize it. Maybe I was mistaken. Maybe it was someone who looked like Lisa. The brain can play tricks when you're stressed. But I knew what I saw. That was Lisa. I asked my cubicle neighbor, Karen, "Did you just see someone in a yellow blouse walk by?" Toward the copy machine. Karen looked at me, confused. "No. Why?" I thought I saw, never mind. I tried to focus on work. Couldn't. Kept glancing toward where I'd seen her. An hour later, I saw her again. This time she was at her own desk, 4 cubicles down from mine, sitting there, wearing a headset, taking a call. I stood up slowly, stared at her. It was definitely Lisa. Same face, same hair, same mannerisms. She was twirling her pen between her fingers like she always did. I walked over to her cubicle. She was talking to a customer. Normal conversation. Something about a billing issue. I stood right behind her chair. She didn't acknowledge me. Just kept talking. I reached out and tapped her shoulder. My hand went through her, like she was made of air. She flickered, like a TV losing signal. And then she was gone. The chair was empty. The headset was sitting on the desk. No call connected. Just silence. I ran to my supervisor's office. "Is Lisa here?" I asked, breathless. "Did she wake up? Is she back?" My supervisor looked at me like I was crazy. "Rebecca, no. Lisa's still in a coma. I just spoke with her sister an hour ago. There's been no change." "But I saw her," I insisted. "I saw her at her desk. She was taking a call." My supervisor's expression shifted from confusion to concern. "Rebecca, are you feeling okay? Do you need to go home?" I shook my head. "I'm not imagining this. I saw her. Twice." She stood up, walked with me back to the floor. We went to Lisa's cubicle. Empty. Headset on the desk. Computer logged out. "Rebecca," my supervisor said gently, "Lisa hasn't been here since Friday. Nobody has used this workstation since then." But I knew what I saw. Over the next 2 days, other people started reporting the same thing. A guy from accounting said he saw Lisa in the parking garage. Someone from HR said they passed her in the stairwell. Another coworker swore she saw Lisa in the cafeteria, sitting alone, eating a salad. Every time, when they tried to approach her, she'd disappear. By Friday, 7 different people had reported seeing Lisa, all while the real Lisa was still unconscious in a hospital bed 15 miles away. On Friday afternoon, I was working late. Most people had left for the day. The floor was quiet. I was packing up my things when I heard it. Laughter. Lisa's laugh. That distinctive, bright laugh I'd heard 100 times. It was coming from her cubicle. I walked over slowly. She was sitting there, facing her computer, shoulders shaking with laughter, like she'd just heard the funniest joke. "Lisa," I whispered. She stopped laughing. Slowly, she turned her chair around to face me. It was her. But something was wrong. Her eyes were empty, completely black. No whites, no iris, just black. And her smile was too wide, stretched across her face in a way that wasn't physically possible. She stared at me for what felt like an eternity. Then she spoke, but her mouth didn't move. Her voice came from everywhere and nowhere at once. "I can't wake up, Rebecca. I can't wake up, and I don't know where I am, and it's so dark, and I can't wake up. Help me, please. Help me, I can't." The lights flickered, and she was gone. I ran out of that building and didn't stop until I reached my car. The next morning, Saturday, I got a call from my supervisor. Lisa had woken up. After 5 days in a coma, she'd suddenly regained consciousness at 11:47 p.m. Friday night, right around the time I saw her for the last time. I visited her in the hospital a week later. She was weak but recovering. Didn't remember the accident. Didn't remember anything from the time. She was unconscious. But when I told her what had happened, what I'd seen, what others had seen, she got very quiet. "I remember darkness," she finally said. "And I remember feeling split, like part of me was somewhere else, somewhere bright and loud. I kept trying to get back to it, kept reaching for it." "Reaching for what?" I asked. She looked at me with an expression I'll never forget. "Work. I kept trying to get back to work. It was the only thing I could remember, the only place that felt real." Lisa came back to the office a month later, sat at the same desk, wore bright colors again, laughed the same laugh. But sometimes, late in the day, when the floor is quiet, I'll glance over at her cubicle, and for just a second, I'll see two of her. The real Lisa, working at her computer, and the other one, the one with black eyes, standing right behind her, watching. I never say anything, never point it out, because I have a terrible feeling that if I do, if I acknowledge it, it might realize I can see it, and I don't know what will happen then. Those were tonight's 3 disturbing co-worker horror stories. Real people, real experiences, real terror hiding behind workplace normalcy. And here's what keeps me awake at night. How many of these are happening right now? How many people are experiencing something they can't explain, can't prove, can't escape from? I want to hear your story. What's the most unexplainable thing that's ever happened to you at work? Something that defies logic, something that still haunts you. Share it in the comments below. Don't hold back. This community needs to know we're not alone in these experiences. If you made it this far, you're part of something bigger now. Subscribe, turn on notifications, because every week, I bring you more true stories that prove reality is far stranger and far more terrifying than any fiction. Stay vigilant, trust your instincts, and remember, the person sitting next to you at work, you might think you know them, but do you really know where they go when the lights go out? What they do when they think no one's watching? Who or what they might actually be? I'll see you in the next one.